All right, I would say we get started and we dive right into it, okay? So I want to do about 1 hour of a presentation diving into a couple of topics that, in my opinion, have been the most relevant for me being able to actually scale the companies that I have scaled. And then afterwards, I want to dive into your guys' situation a bit more, make it a bit more tailored, and we do that. So the whole topic of the presentation that I put together today is educate, sell, and repeat. We talked about it outside earlier as well, slightly, that, with content, everything becomes easier, especially conversions. And I wanted to dive into that a lot for the simple reason that with a lot of people that I work with, although we put a heavy emphasis on them actually creating the right content assets to be able to convert people, they never really take action on it because it's like the last thing that they prioritize after doing the outreach, after hiring team members and anything else. But in my opinion, it's actually one of the most important parts to it. Because with a lot of you in here, I haven't spoken much before you, for example, became a client or, before you will become a client, because you've just seen so much content before. And that's the mechanism that I've leveraged for myself to be able to grow the agencies that I've grown and also the info businesses, right? And so I want to go over how we leveraged positioning and framing to scale 2 agencies to $1 million per year in run rate at 80% profit margins within less than 2 years. This is all very easy and streamlined business model, very profitable. I personally don't like complexity. I have a lot of friends that run agencies that do 300, 400, 500K a month at 10% margins. And it's not nice because you have huge responsibility for, low profit in accordance to that. So that's the type of business model that I usually prefer using. Okay, so as with a lot of the presentations that I've done in the past as well on live classes and everything else, I wanted to dive into a couple of things and a bit of proof first that what I'm talking about is actually worth listening to, because I know some of you aren't necessarily that familiar with my story so far. You can see a couple of cool pictures from me here. This is not very impressive, but I want to dive into a couple of numbers because that's mostly what matters in, seeing whether it makes sense to actually listen to me. So I listed down the path that I was on over the last few years here, and I want to dive into that quickly so you guys actually understand how I got to the place I am at today and, the developments that caused that to be the case. So the first thing was that I graduated from school in 2021. I got my Abitur in Germany, and I was 18 at the time. At that point in time, you need to keep in mind that I was very lazy. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at all, and I had pretty much no clue about anything. I was very uneducated, I was very lazy, I had no drive, and that was the position I was in. And originally, I had plans to actually go work and travel for a year after I graduated school. That was during the time when COVID hit, which means that it was very hard to catch the right flights and actually go to other countries, especially if you're younger and self-reliant for the first time in your life. And so because of that, I stayed at home, and I was at home for a year. Back in the days, I was gaming a lot, and so I did that a lot, but after a couple of months of playing video games every day, it was very boring at some point, and I had to find something else. And so around end of 2021, I discovered crypto and NFTs. I got into that, and I was trading those for a bit. I had a couple of good weeks. I made about 20K in profit in like 2 weeks of work. And bear in mind, my net worth at that time was 4K. Meaning I made 5 times my net worth in 2 weeks, which was pretty cool for me at that time. And that kind of pushed me into the direction of wanting to do more and actually make more money than 3,000 a month and work a bad job that I don't even like being at. And so over that summer afterwards, I had 2 jobs as a lifeguard by the pool. I was working for minimum wage on those. And during that time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, YouTube videos, audiobooks, and a lot of stuff of that sort. And that was mainly self-improvement related and also business related. This was like from the classic self-improvement YouTubers that you had at that time. Audiobooks, for example, I listened to Atomic Habits and Robert Kiyosaki's books, and these like basic beginner entry-level books that everybody reads. And because of that, I then started watching a guy's YouTube videos on how to build an agency, which made me buy his course, and my mom bought it. And that was quite cool back then. I got into that course, I started my first agency, This was 2022, September 2022 to be precise, and I started my first agency. Now, this was a real estate marketing agency where we were essentially running people's Facebook ads. We were getting the leads, routing them into Go High Level, qualifying them on the phone, and booking them in to speak with our agents. And with that business, within like 3-4 months, I signed my first 3 paying clients, which was for $600, 1.5K, as well as $300. And that was the first agency. Now, during that time, I had the opportunity to actually get on board with 2 business partners back then, which I thought was a way bigger opportunity than the agency I was currently running, meaning I closed it down and got into that new venture. That was a consulting agency. And we scaled that consulting agency from $0 to $60,000 a month in cash profit within about 7 weeks. We were 3 business partners, and that was the business profit, not my personal profit, just to be clear here. That was cash collected though. So we did that. The problem with that was that I was back then very focused on anything to do with money. And the problem with that was that I didn't see all the other things that were relevant and important when choosing and picking who to work with. And so because of that, there was some misalignments between my partners and myself, because over the summer we were traveling a lot. We were in London, we were in Bucharest, I was in Paris, Italy, and just traveling a lot, Dubai. And I met them up as well. The thing was that there were a lot of things that really disturbed me about it, which is something that I want to dive into in the presentation as well, which is that a lot of people in this industry like to lie about a lot of numbers and everything they're doing. And I can tell you that from first-hand experience, because a lot of these people I have met and talked with, and I actually know their back-end numbers. And so about 90% of what they talk about and claim to make is usually bullshit. And we're going to dive into a couple of things on that and later on. But that was that business. Towards the end of that year, 2023, I got out of the business because I didn't like it anymore. I also didn't get a payout, which was very stupid of me. But I got out of the business. I started up a coaching, which I scaled to like 10, 15K within a couple of weeks. And then I launched an agency. And this agency I launched with a new business partner that I partnered up with. And we did pretty well. It took us about 2 months to get to $1 million a year in run rate. And we parted ways towards the end of the year. So as you can see, I had 2 businesses before the one I'm running now that were already successful, and twice it didn't work out because of the business partners. And the problem with that is that when you get into the space, you usually tend to think that a lot of people are very real with you, with everything they're saying and claiming and everything else. And it's just rarely the case. And so that's how I got fucked over a bit sometimes. And obviously it was also my fault. I decided to partner up with them. But you live and you learn. Had that business, worked well, and now I started my own thing beginning of this year back up again, which is a marketing agency for info products, as well as a consulting program for agency owners, which is why we're here today. And that was the journey that I was on so far. One of the biggest mistakes that I would say I've made was that I just switched too much. That was like the main problem, because I had successful businesses running multiple times and I had to close them down again and again. But I learned my lesson: only partner up with the right people and don't be only focused on the money. I'm not the smartest business owner out there. I'm also not the one that's built the biggest business in the space, but I've been able to build a pretty scalable as well as profitable agency for myself, which grows week on week without me having to be heavily involved. And that's what I'm pretty good at, because I'm not the hardest working person out there. Yesterday I worked like 3 hours and the rest I chilled. I'm not someone to be locked in 16 hours a day, at least most times, because it depends on the season that you're in. But you can build something great without having to sacrifice everything in your life for it, like every single coach on social media claims, okay? Just to show you some proof of the fact that what I'm going to talk about here actually works, a couple of nice screenshots. This was my coaching program. You can see this was like March 2024. This is just Stripe, by the way. We had other payment processors. We had Wise. We had another Stripe account. So this was doing about 60, 70 grand. This was doing 60K USD just on Stripe, as you can see here, because this is pounds. And this was the one that I had at 10K. So I had 2 businesses at $1 million a year in run rate. That was not $1 million a year collected, okay? Run rate. And this one at, 10, 20K, roundabout. Bear in mind that this is not only what I've done for myself, but also what I've done with more than 250 agency owners who I've worked with one-on-one, which is a lot of people, which is why I pretty well know what you have to do in the space to actually make money. I can give you a very good example here. For example, Benjamin. When Benjamin came to me, he was making a couple of thousand a month, and that was mainly in jobs. So he wasn't necessarily working with clients as an agency owner. He was coming into the businesses, being employed there, and he was making some money, but there was no freedom attached to this. When Benjamin came on board, it took him about 2 weeks to close a client, which was for 7.5K and 15% rev share, which isn't that crazy, but I think it's a pretty good deal. And what we now did with Benjamin is, if you can see this as well, within 3 days of launching that client, they collected about 50K, and within the first 7 days, which I don't have a screenshot for that right now, they collected about 90K, because the guy has about 2 million followers, and they essentially came in, done for you, scaling his info product offer top to bottom, and he has 15% rev share in that company, and they will be at 200, 300 grand a month very quickly. Which also means that he's going to be making 20, 30, 40K a month of one single client. And it took him 2 weeks to acquire that client. And that's the whole mantra that I'm personally following, because I know some of you are running lower ticket offers, which is perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. But, I think if you want to have a lot of scalability without having to have a big audience, then going high ticket is usually the best route to go. And bear in mind, with Benjamin, for example, he didn't really have that crazy client results. He just was dedicated to that one certain ICP that he wanted to sign on with, put the work in, and he signed him. And this is going to make him a lot of money, because every single big person, they know each other. All the people that make money know other people that make money. So once you get into that door once, everything else becomes a lot easier. And this is why this type of business model is also one of the best ones to run, in my opinion. I've had different offers, right? I've had my agency offer, which was like 1,000 in the beginning. Then I've had a consulting offer, which was 10,000. Then I've had a coaching offer, which was 5,000. Then I've had an agency offer, which was 7,500 a month and rev share. So I've tested everything besides like $100 a month community. And I've just found that you get the most freedom out of the business model you're running if you work with very few clients and are heavily invested in their success. And that's what I personally found with every single person that I worked with as well. We have Aviral as well. Aviral is from India. He was 19 years old. When I met him, he was doing 4.5K a month revenue, 1.5K a month in profit. And he was doing that for 2 years consistently, selling a very commoditized service, which was video editing. So he was charging like $400 a month, and his margin was like 40%. So very low for done-for-you video editing. And I told him that it doesn't make any sense, that he's very good at his service and he should target people that can actually pay what he's worth. And about a month or two after, he closed a client for $120,000, which is the biggest Buddhist guru in all of India. And the profit margin on that was like 40%. And the marketing campaign he did for him took 2 weeks. So he got paid like 50K profit within like 2 weeks. Low ticket couldn't do that. So that's a very good example. It afterwards took him about 2 months to scale to 20K a month in profit. We have Noah, for example. When I met Noah, he was actually at zero in business, not doing anything. He scaled to 12K a month within 4 weeks after actually targeting higher ticket people. He didn't like the business, went back to zero. Then he started partnering with the right people, the right ICP that he actually wanted to work with. And now he's at about 20K a month. We have Andre, 0 to 15K in 32 days. This was one deal as well, 10K setup, 2K retainer, 250 per booked appointment. You can see the common mantra of all of these case studies and people that I've worked with is usually that they don't sign any clients. They then implement the right systems and target, and that's most important, the right ICP. They sign 1 or 2 deals, and then everything becomes easier afterwards because the hardest client to close is the first one, right? This is a good friend of mine. Leo knows him as well. Alex is doing pretty well for himself, but what Alex, for example, did was in the beginning when he scaled from 0 to 50K, he was just selling any real estate agent anything. He was selling $500, $1,000, $8,000, $2,000, whatever they had, he just took. And the problem with that was that it was very unscalable because my guy would literally work like 19 hours every day, 7 days a week, because he's a bit crazy. And then he switched his offering, and now he's working with a couple of clients every month and making a lot of money because his average ticket is 100 to 200K because they're launching cryptocurrency coins that they have heavy stake in. So that's that. I have a bunch more. I don't want to go through everything, to be honest. But that's all to say that what I'm talking about is, first of all, actually possible. And second of all, This is just my preferred way of doing it. I like lean, scalable, and profitable businesses. If you like huge corporations with a lot of team members and lower margins and a lot of responsibility and high revenue, that's fine as well. I just don't like it. Because this business is not a business that, in my opinion, someone can sell. There are very, very, very few people that have successfully sold an agency, an info product business, or anything of that sort. Meaning you have to prioritize profit because this is a cash flow business. This is not for you to get to $100 million. This is for you to maybe make your first few million and then afterwards get into another vehicle that actually has a high multiple when selling it, okay? Because that's at the end of the day the goal. A lot of people tend to look at short-term success and tend to try to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, but they don't really take into account where they want to be long-term, which is why I've seen companies scale from $0 to $500,000 a month in profit within like 3 months and then declining 6 months after, going bankrupt and fucking up their entire life because they weren't focused on the longevity of the business, okay? You're not in business to make quick money. You're in business to create long-lasting wealth. At least that's like it for me, and I assume it's for you guys as well. And so play the long-term game. And that's also why we're going to put a heavy focus on branding in today's keynote. I am not a magician at ads, outreach, and team building. I'm not. I have about 4 things that I have been able to do pretty well at that impacted these things so positively that the business is very profitable. I know a thing or two about these things, but the main 4 things that enabled me to do all of this were a unique offer and positioning for maximum efficiency, an ecosystem of content assets that create maximum leverage within my company, a streamlined, efficient sales process that enables fast conversions, as well as leveraging focus as my biggest asset in business. These are the 4 things that I've been able to become solidly good at so far and that I'm every single day getting better at that have enabled me to get to the success that I have. Because if you ask me about the best meta ad structure, I couldn't tell you. And the reason is that most people's ads are unprofitable, not because the ads are bad, but because their offer sucks, they have no proof, and their company's shit. That's why they're unprofitable, not because the ad structure sucks. And so if you can just be good at these 4 things, I personally found everything in your business becomes a lot easier. Now, profitable ads, outreach, and great teams are all downstream of the foundation that your business has. Ads are usually unprofitable because the rest of the business is a mess. The outreach usually doesn't yield replies because the profile funnel is just shit. When people look at your profile, why would they respond? And I've seen that with a lot of you guys that I've worked with. When I first looked at your profile, I was like, bro, would you respond to yourself, like genuinely, even if you had the best message? And so the perception you curate online of yourself and the way people see you is one of the most important factors in all of this. Because everything that has contributed to the success my company's had so far was all downstream of people seeing me as some type of authority or as some type of credibility in a certain thing. But you can only do that if they actually see an optimized profile with high quality content that talks about good stuff and doesn't talk about mindset one day and then acquisition the next day and then, I don't know, you sit on the toilet the next day. No offense, Leo. You know? And so that's super important to understand. A players are also not attracted to great offers. They have to see the vision in your company. Sorry, they are only attracted to great offers. My bad. If you want great team members, you have to be able to sell the vision. When you're hiring and recruiting, it's like a sales process. And the problem with that is that most people don't have a great vision for their company and a great offer that people would want to work at. The reason why you attract bad C players, D players, or whatever it is because your offering and what the company is striving for isn't big enough, right? My friend Ilya in the back, for example, when they were starting the company he was working in, like, you know, you started like 8-7 months ago roundabout, I know you guys were locked in as fuck, but that's because you were all working towards the same thing, right? And so it's super important to understand that. Now, today I want to go over the 4 biggest levers any agency can pull to scale past 50K a month. And this is what I've done with myself and all of my clients as well. And so I would say I'm pretty qualified to talk about this in the first place. By the end of this keynote, you will understand what types of offer crush it in today's market and how you can actually create them, how I personally built an ecosystem of top-of-funnel education that serves me the best clients on a weekly basis, what my entire sales process looks like for effective conversions, and where I personally put my focus for maximum input-output ratio. Because that's what it's about. A lot of you guys work every day, all day, without seeing great results with it. And the reason is because you have no leverage in your business. And I hate to be the one saying leverage, 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 because that's the buzzword everybody throws around. But if you work a lot and get a little out of it, then there is something off with the input-output ratio, okay? The top learnings that I've had from building 3 agencies past 10K a month within less than 2 weeks, not at the same time, by the way, obviously consecutively, and 2 agencies past $1 million a year in run rate in less than 2 months. So the first one, 7 weeks, second one, 2 to 2.5 months. The first one is that you have to create an offer for the apex of the market, because the top 1% of any market always have money. Premium solutions with high price points and a high likelihood of success are 1,000 times better than mid-ticket one-size-fits-all solutions. Because a lot of people tend to think that signing high-ticket clients and the best of the best in the industry is a lot harder than signing low-level people. It's actually not the case, because if someone is broke and you try to charge them a $2,000 a month retainer, you'll probably face the same amount of friction, if not more, than charging $50,000 to someone who has millions in marketing budgets. And so targeting the right part of the market is crucial. It is so much more important than I can even express in just talking about it, okay? Because one single great client can change your life. I'm working on a campaign right now with one of the biggest influencers in all of Germany. And we don't know whether we're going to launch it because he's not quite sure whether he wants to do it. But that guy can collect millions on the first webinar. If I have a tiny rev share on that and contribute to the success of that webinar, I make a couple $100,000 of one client, one launch. That's it. That's not that much work, especially if you can hire the right team members because you have the right vision integrated in your company. And so what you want to do is you want to discover who your ICP is and what the main problem is that he's facing. You then want to build an adequate solution for that person. You want to put adequate pricing on top of it and then deliver upon your promises. If you can do these 4 things, you're fine. And you don't need to overcomplicate stuff. My own example, for example, in the beginning, I was working with any realtor, no matter whether they were making 2K a month or 10K a month or whatever. I was charging them a very low ticket cost and then pay per appointment model. And like running that agency and making 10K a month with it, 20K a month with it, I would literally have no life, like zero. And so because of that, I had to make a switch in the companies that I was running. And currently I'm building out the entire marketing for 7- and 8-figure info offers. And it's a great business to run because I can charge 5 figures a month for that. If people are making 200, 300K a month and I run their entire operations and their marketing and their sales team and everything, I can easily have a 10% rev share in that company, 15%. And that makes you so much more than all of these shitty-ass low-level clients. So that's way better than saying we do your content for 1.5K a month, right? Very simple. Now, research and find out what the market actually needs. Build the solutions, and prospects should be fucking excited to hear about it after. Then you deliver. That's a mantra you should follow every single day. When you have what the market wants, you don't really need to have the best outreach system. This is like a couple of days of bookings. I don't even know where they come from. I get bookings every single day. I don't know where they come from. I don't know. My setup books them in, or they book via YouTube or whatever. I don't care. But I don't have to be so deep into it because I have something that the market actually wants. And that all comes down to the offer you have and how you position yourself in the marketplace. Keep in mind that this is not about giving the offer any fancy name or any fancy guarantee or giving it a crazy risk reversal. What's going to make or break your offer is whether it's what the apex of the market, so the top 1%, actually wants and needs. And that's when your offer becomes desirable, no matter the price point. Okay? And if you look at the biggest players, by the way, a lot of people, and including myself, like to watch YouTube videos of people that are successful in business. It's almost like mental masturbation, watching someone live the life that you want to live. The problem with that is that when you look at these people, especially the people running agencies or info offers, the ones that actually make a lot of money charge a shitload of money for it, only work with the best of the best, and have an optimized profile funnel. None of them send a generic outreach message. to random people on Instagram. Why do you think that is? I don't. I have a sales team with 5 people on outbound roles, and although, they can advance in the company and get better and then get paid more, most of them won't make it. And the reason is because outreach fucking sucks, and I don't care about the outreach that much because ads and content are way more profitable. The problem is that what most people do is they're scared of spending money, right? I know a lot of you could put a lot more money into ads than you do right now. And it's just because you're scared of what's going to happen if you lose it. You're all young, every single one of you, okay? There is nothing wrong with losing money short term and getting learnings from that, okay? So put more money into ads and put a heavy emphasis on building out a proper profile funnel. And you can do this on any platform. It doesn't have to be Instagram or YouTube. You can do this on LinkedIn. You can do this on X. You can do this on Snapchat. There are agencies getting clients from Snapchat. It doesn't really matter, but you have to build it out. This kind of looks like a baby face picture, to be honest. I tried to optimize it with AI, but yeah, like the quality of it, not the baby face. But yeah. Second point, this is the second part to it, an ecosystem of top-of-funnel education. We all know that consumer trust is at an all-time low. And the problem with that is that if you want to scale your company through cold outreach, you have to have huge sales teams for it, which means your margins decline and there's a lot of operational complexity. If you want to scale with ads, which ads are great in the beginning, but if you want to scale with ads, the problem is that over time your margins decline with scale. Any company that makes above $1 million a month in this industry, if they do it via paid ads and no profile funnel, no nothing, just ads, their profit margin at best is 20%. I wouldn't enjoy running a business that makes more than $1 million a month with all that responsibility and I make 100, 200K. And the problem here is the ads. All profitable online businesses, including agencies, need great branding to achieve scale, especially with high-ticket products. If you look at the biggest companies on the planet, like Apple, for example, what does Apple do? Apple, for example, has great branding and a great product. Even if they turned off all ads they're running today, people would continue buying for decades because they like the product so much and because they have great branding. And some people can't even explain why they like it so much. I can't either. I don't know anything about the technical side of the product. I have no clue. I just like using it. I don't know why. And that's why I continue buying it over and over and over again. I have 2 MacBooks, I have an iPhone, I have my EarPods and all of this stuff. It's all from Apple because I like the product and because I like the branding. I bought because I like the branding and I continue to buy because I like the product. And that's it, point blank. And Apple is worth like $3 trillion. Easy. After that, clients make a decision on who they buy from in accordance to who they trust the most. And the reason you can't convert people is because they don't trust you enough. Direct bookings and sales are great, but proper branding makes your entire sales process 5 times easier to run. You have higher margins, lower CPLs, lower CPA, shorter sales cycles, higher cash collected, and better client results. For anybody that doesn't know these terms, this is cost per lead, this is cost per acquisition. Okay? All of your costs decline and your profit increases, simply said. The perfect channel for attention is the one channel that yields highly relevant eyeballs. Okay? I want to dive into some math right here. I wasn't good at math in school, but maybe this one will do better. For you to be able to convert people on any traffic channel organically, you need to have a great offer, because when you couple a great offer with a lot of eyeballs and you make that times the conversion argument, you get sales. So the better your offer is and the more eyeballs you have and the better your conversion argument, the more money you make. Simply said, if you master these 3 areas, you'll be fine. And the conversion argument is what do I offer plus the proof that I have minus the objections that I'm facing with people. Okay? So if you can optimize for this equation, you'll be fine and you'll be making the money. An example for this. This is super easy, super simple. This is a video I send pretty much every single person before they opt into the info offer that I have. And this is not a fancy breakdown. One thing that I really want to emphasize on here is that this is a very simple 3-step process. I put in proof, I describe the perfect clients that I'm looking to work with, and then I describe the process and service. 3 things: proof, perfect client, process, service. That's it. 1, 2, 3. A lot of people obsess over what landing page they should build, what VSL structure they should have, and all of that bullshit, when in reality, none of it actually matters. The only thing that matters is your offer relevant to that person? Can you say it and tell it to them in the easiest way possible? And can you follow the simple 3-step process? The best landing pages that convert the best and make the most amount of money, millions and tens of millions every single month, have literally nothing on them besides one VSL and a call to action headline below that, and then maybe a button. That's it. You don't need to build any fancy funnels for it. Everything that you're obsessing over usually is an issue of you not having the fundamentals of the business set right. And this is the main topic of what I wanted to go over today. So the fundamentals of the business, we have the offer, we have the branding, and we have the client results, or the delivery. These 3 things are the fundamentals. If you get that right, that equation that we spoke about before, everything else doesn't matter. What landing page you build doesn't matter. What you do in the sales process actually doesn't matter that much. I'm not that good at sales. People still convert. It's not because I'm the best closer. I don't like it. I don't like closing. It's not my thing. But I don't struggle to do it. And that's because I have the right fundamentals set in place. And so if you're not profitable, it's not the ads, it's not the landing page, it's not the VSL, it's none of that. It's the fundamentals of your business that are off. And so you should focus on those. Your offer gets eyeballs and has to convert because it's highly relevant. The traffic source or type of funnel is completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. There is no best funnel. There's only the best offer you can possibly make and clear communication of that particular offer. Okay? Now, everything you do publicly is an impression you give to the marketplace. And people only care about who you are and what you stand for after you have been validated. And this is super important to understand. A lot of people, when they start out with their brand or building their personal brand, whatever you want to call it, they try to talk about their opinions and their worldviews and show stuff of their life. But the thing is, no one gives a fuck. Like, no one cares. And the reason why no one cares is because you haven't been validated, because there is no proof in your funnel. If you don't have proof that what you're talking about is actually relevant and actually works and you're actually good at what you do, no one gives a shit what name your cat has. No one gives a shit where you've been on vacation on. No one cares. It's all about having the proof first and then thereafter being able to show people who you are and what you stand for. If you can combine good results with an interesting personality, you'll have differentiation in your brand. But this has to come first. So you have to have something to show for it. You want to do cool stuff, talk about it, and then optimize it for the platform algorithm. And by the way, one thing I wanted to talk about here as well is that obviously good results is relative. You know, good results for one person can be getting someone from 1K a month to 2K a month, and for someone else is increasing profit from 400K a month to 10 million a month. It doesn't really matter. Every single one of you here in this room has some sort of proof. When I started out, I told people the reason as to why I can make your real estate agency company more money is because I worked at this consulting company. I had a job there. That's what I said on my first few sales calls, which is fucking stupid. I just used any proof that I had to validate that what I'm talking about is actually true. So good results and proof comes first. Okay, own example before. I have a bunch of these examples, by the way. In January of last year, I spent 4,000 on ads working with a really good agency. They were really good at ads. Most calls no-showed. There was pretty much no one that had any trust in what I was doing. The ones that did show had zero trust, brought me zero conversions. A couple of months later, I spent about 9,000 on ads. Again, zero conversions. All money lost. And the reason for that was not that the ads were bad. The reason for it was everything we just spoke about, okay? Own example after, I spent 3,000 on ads, made 25,000 cash collected within 2 weeks. The only thing that changed was the brand, the client results, and the offer. That was it. It wasn't the ads, okay? Now, I want to talk about proof quickly. So this is a client case study that I have as an example. And a very simple structure you should follow here is hook, good education, and call to action. Why am I even talking about this in the first place? Because this is the best proof that you can have by far. It's client case studies. You have client case studies at the top, then you have any value, and then you have value but less of it. Okay, that's like the ladder. And so if you don't have this, then start with value, but you have to have proof. And to go through proof, Have a hook, good education, and a call to action. Again, don't overcomplicate it. This is the simple structure that you should follow for any proof that you post. Client case studies need to be packaged with your personality. Again, this is the proof to personality equation that we spoke about, okay? Now, content is petrol on an already existing fire. And the easiest content are extremely believable success stories. The distribution starts in your network and grows with paid reach. Meaning, in the beginning, just send your fucking video to everybody you know. Because the thing is, when you're starting out, you have people to send it to. I know you do, so send it. And then when you have some proof of concept and you get organic reach and that you get organic views, then you start with paid. And in my humble opinion, you should invest as much money as possible into growing that brand. Because I fundamentally believe that the gap to being able to brand yourself in a way where people see you as an authority and you actually have a lot of eyeballs on you, it will close at some point. At some point, I believe YouTube will charge you to post videos. Because the audience you get from it is so valuable. Why would they not do that to certain business owners? There are business owners that post videos that get 2,000 views on YouTube and they make 300 grand from it. Why would YouTube not charge a couple thousand for that? You never know. And so you want to be quick with this. Now, this is very basic and super simple, but I did want to go over this. We have 1x leverage, we have 100x leverage. In the beginning, most people start out with manual outreach, automated outreach, and over time, it all goes into the direction of having content assets. And that's what you have to rely upon if you want to achieve true scale, because there is nothing wrong with cold outreach. It's just not efficient at all. Everything I've talked about so far, especially the last part, that's exactly what everybody tells you. Build a brand, it's very important, it's going to make you more money. How do you actually do it? Because that's what most people just don't talk about. Before we dive into the good stuff, here's some generic advice about content you've heard 1,000 times before. Be consistent, be authentic, do it long term, it's a long-term game. Have quality videos, provide good value, and be entertaining. Very basic, you all understand that. Now, I want to dive into some things that most people don't understand. The first one being positioning. Most people think positioning is always about being better. Most people think if you're better, you'll sign more clients. That's not the case. There are countless cases of people making a shitload of money with their service being actually fucking ass. And the reason for that is because they are different. Not better, they're different. Front end, you have to be different. Back end, you have to be better. And that's how you achieve scale and longevity in the business, okay? When you are different, people are recognizing you. And this is the most important part that you need to understand. It's not about getting people's attention. It's about keeping people's attention. It's about retaining their attention and making sure that they remember you. So when people see you anywhere in a blog post, in a short form video, in a long form video, on a sales call, wherever they see you, if they don't remember you, you failed at your job. And they won't remember you because you're good. They will remember you because something about you is fundamentally different. And that could really be anything. That could, in the beginning, start with what you wear. It could start with how you talk. Anything that makes you recognizable. There are countless examples of actual idiots on social media that just do a bunch of dumb stuff and people like it and they make a shitload of money from their courses from it, or agencies or whatever it is. It's because people remember them. Because they have this one thing. When people think about that thing, they think about them. Easy. When you're different, you're instantly recognized, meaning you have more demand on your offer, meaning you can sign more clients. Again, this is very important. If you're just different, you'll make a lot of money and then decline and go bankrupt because your delivery isn't optimized. So on the front end, be different. On the back end, be better. That's how you have longevity and scale in the business, okay? Now, let's see. There we go. We're now going to put a heavy emphasis on YouTube, as you've probably already also seen. The reason for that is super simple. YouTube is the most powerful platform by far to convert clients. Not only because of the reach you get from it and the people that can opt in directly, but mainly because you can also leverage it in the beginning as assets you send to people. When you get people on sales calls, you send it to their email, you send it via WhatsApp, whatever channel you might use. You can use these things to convert them. I was recently on a sales call with someone and they didn't see any of my content before because we booked it in last minute, and a couple hours afterwards they jumped on and they weren't framed at all. And I would have taken 2-3 hours to close that client. And at the end, he would have closed because I was good at objection handling, not because he actually wants it. Next day, he would probably text me, hey Lies, I'm still not quite sure because I'm not sure if I want to invest the money, whatever that may be. I've had that before. I've had people that didn't know me, had zero education on what I stand for, who I am, the results I have. I closed them because I'm not that bad at sales. And the next day they text me, hey bro, I still don't want to invest the money because the trust isn't there. And that's the problem. And the trust you can establish via YouTube. So we're going to put an emphasis on that. Okay? A couple of good examples. I want to dive into some examples here so you actually understand what I'm talking about when it comes to differentiation. You need to keep in mind that differentiation always boils back down to a certain ICP. So with Ty Lopez, for example, his ICP is business owners that want a mentor. Very simply said. This guy works with someone that I've personally worked with before as well. They are pretty close. And what my guy told me is that this guy doesn't have to wear glasses. His hair looks dirty on purpose, and the way he speaks is done on purpose as well. He talks in a very weird way if you've seen his videos before. Every single time you see a video of him, if it's at his home, there's always books in the background. There's books in the background, he has this fluffy hair, he has the glasses on, and he talks in a weird way. It's not because he's that weird. It's because that's what his ICP thinks a person that can be a good mentor to them looks like. Because that's the picture you would have of someone who's more scientific and data-driven and business-driven, right? The nerd at the laptop that knows all the numbers. That's the picture he portrays. And that's why this conversion works so well. That's his differentiator. No one talks like him. No one has oily hair like him. You know? And so it works. I'll give you a lot more examples here, by the way, because this is so important. I've shown this guy to some of you before as well. I know that a lot of you guys think that just the quality in your content will make the difference. It's actually not the case. If you look at this guy, he's recording his videos on a MacBook camera, shitty-ass microphone, and he's just yapping about some things. The thing is, first of all, he's very unique in what he's doing because no one does videos shirtless, sitting there and talking about the topics he's talking about. In addition to that, he has proof. He actually runs e-com businesses that make solid amounts of money, and in the videos he talks about it. So he not only has the proof, but he also has a very unique differentiator. And something we'll dive into later on as well is outperforming videos, which you can see here, 9.2x, 8.1x. A lot of his videos are outperformers for these certain reasons, okay? Another example, Alex Hormozi. I don't think I've ever seen someone wear the shirt that he wears in business videos and have a beard and look like a lumberjack. That's his unique differentiation, okay? Another example, German guys, some of you probably know them. They have a more professional appeal, always wear suits and drive Bentleys, and like they're kind of like grandpa style. Fine as well, that's also a differentiator, okay? And people that like that sign with them rather than anyone else. Charlie, for example, Charlie Morgan, some of you might know him as well. In pretty much all of his videos, it's very raw videos with him speaking about, you know, more scientific topics, and his hair is also sometimes a bit, you know, messy and everything. Same thing, more like the scientist, I read 10 books a day vibe. Same thing, that's why it works for him. That's how people see him, right? Oh, I have to be as smart as him to make money, and, you know, when you want to hit a certain target and someone makes you believe that the only way to get there is to be a scientist, read 10 books a day and be smarter, you will pay him and not anyone else, okay? Dan Coe, for example, some of you might have seen him. I don't watch him as much, but he has a very raw style, very calm style, always like black and white, super simple. We have Myron Golden, for example. He always has presentations with people, and his unique example here as well, one of them would be that he's also religious, and he talks about a lot of religious stuff, and he talks about the Bible and connects that to business. All of these are unique differentiators that make people come to them rather than anyone else. I have a couple of those as well, but I think you get the point so far. On my end, for example, one of the things that I truly try to portray in this industry is authenticity, because I've been fucked over a lot of times, and I know that a lot of people are bullshitting in the industry, and I just want to be as authentic as humanly possible. That's also why I'm saying 60,000 cash profit, not revenue, not contractual deal value, not $1 million a year. If I say $1 million a year, it's run rate. I never made $1 million a year cash yet, but I got it to a run rate of that, okay? And because I'm real and authentic about the numbers that I have, that's what attracts a lot of people to me. And that's also the type of person I want to work with. I don't want to work with people that lie and deceive to make money. Because first of all, I don't like it. And second of all, it has no longevity. Okay? Easy. Proof plus personality equals brand. Keep in mind that proof has to come first. Now, how do you actually come up with video ideas? This is a super important topic to go over, okay? Because a lot of them, a lot of you guys have trouble with that. You steal them, but not in an unethical way. I'll show you how to ethically steal killer video ideas and generate big money off it. You go to this website, you get oneof10.com, it's a Chrome extension. Then you go on YouTube and you create a list of 5 to 10 accounts to take inspiration from. Now, the reasons why I'm saying this is very important. You will not attract a high quality, big, large audience by being unique and trying to come up with your own video ideas, because the chance of that happening is close to zero. There are a few videos that do go viral sometimes that are like out of the box and a unique new idea and that get a shitload of views because of that, but that's very unlikely, very, very unlikely, and you cannot predict it. There is no predictability behind that system. And so what we want to do is we want to look at the marketplace, look at what's working, what's converting people, what's getting the attention, and we want to take that into account when creating videos. So you want to create a list of 5 to 10 accounts that you can take inspiration from for your videos. The easy thing with this is that this has no correlation to your industry. You can take accounts in e-commerce, social media marketing, affiliate marketing, whatever it may be, doesn't matter. Any industry, take accounts, ideally in the business sector, because that's the ideal scenario. You see a video that's performing outrageously well, that's an outperformer in a different industry, and you can just take that same concept, give it your own small little spin, and it goes well for you as well. This is, by the way, this is like it for Reels, YouTube videos, live streams, anything you want to do, you always go through this process, okay? Step 3, you look at those channels, okay? As you can see right here, this software, oneof10.com, marks outperforming videos on YouTube. Meaning, this one, for example, 4.5x outperformer, posted 3 days ago. You want to look at videos that have high multiples in terms of how much they outperform the average video with a channel of that size in that particular market with that type of audience would get. So this video went, at this point in time, 4.5 times better than it should have, okay? And it's 3 days ago. That's the other metric you want to look at. Don't look at videos that have been posted 2 years ago, because what we're looking at here is we're looking at trends. We're looking at what's working right now. And trends, usually, you tend to see trends being there for like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, maybe 2 weeks maximum, but after 1 to 2 weeks, the trend is gone. Good example of this, a couple of weeks, a couple of months ago, there was a trend with every single person putting into their YouTube videos, in brackets, just copy me, as an example. Every single one of those videos went well. 6 months ago, there was a trend on YouTube in the business sector of people posting 20-hour-long courses about one certain topic. Those went super fucking viral. Every single person that did that went very viral. And the reason for it is A, again, trend, B, it's hard to do. It's not easy to film a 20-hour video course and put it on YouTube within a short time frame. And that's why every single one of those went viral. And by the way, if I'm saying went viral, I'm not talking about like a couple thousand views. I'm talking about like 800, 900K views. And although in the realms of YouTube, 800, 900K views might not be that much, in the business sector, it's a shitload of views. Because I know people that make millions of one video that has 500,000 views. Because it's B2B. B2B videos, if they go viral, they make you a shitload of money. And keep in mind, it's one video. It's one video. I've seen videos of people before that literally just sat down, yapped for 7 minutes, no edits, no scripting, no framework, and because it was such an outperformer, they got 800K views, right? And so you want to look at these outperformers, you want to spot them, take them into account, and then replicate them with your own spin. So trend cycles, we talked about that. You want to take the idea, the title, and the concept of the video, repackage it to fit your style and your company, and then you will achieve channel growth. This is how all social media works, by the way. It's very rare that you'll test something, you come up with it yourself, and it goes extraordinarily well. Usually doesn't work. You want to take winning video templates from channels outside of your industry for this, okay? Keep in mind that in the beginning you will suck, there is no if. This is super important. This is something that I followed in the beginning as well when I started out. You'll be very fucking bad at filming videos at first, and that's perfectly fine. So what you want to do is you want to post as much as possible, okay? You can see quality and quantity here. In the beginning with content, you want to go wide. You want to go volume. Volume is wide. We can see quantity here, okay? Because the wider you go, the bigger the pyramid that you can build on top. Because you post that quantity of videos, you'll be better at talking, you'll be better at producing them, you'll be faster at it, and it makes these videos, when you go the quality route, go a lot better, okay? So go wide first, as wide as you can, and then you build the pyramid. And the wider it is, the bigger the pyramid becomes, essentially. Okay, easy. You need two types of videos, okay? First one is traffic assets. That's usually more clickbaity thumbnails, stuff that people like to click on and watch in their free time. And then you need conversion assets, which is case studies usually. Again, there is a certain step-by-step process to this. The best thing you can do is client case studies, then long courses, then short courses. This is the best one, this is second, this is third, okay? That's in terms of what converts well. You need both. A lot of people focus on conversion assets, but they have no one seeing them. A lot of other people focus on traffic assets, but they don't convert anyone because they don't have any real value to provide or don't have good case studies, okay? Now, I want to go over client case studies very quickly because this is super important to understand. There is a big difference in the effectiveness of client case studies. This one maybe has an effectiveness of 10, this one has an effectiveness of 90. Reason being is because this one is text-based. Text-based, you only have a name, someone wrote something, you know, no one cares. This one is in person, it's in a Rolls Royce as well. And we talked for like 15 minutes, and with every single interview that I have, I try to focus as much as possible on asking questions that don't elicit a certain type of response. Because if I ask the person, how much money did you make last month? How much did you make this month? What do you think, why do you think people should work with me? That's very set up questions. That's not really real. But if you can ask open-ended questions and just let them talk, you'll be fine. And that's a lot more converting, okay? So the ideal scenario is in person, in a nice location, great camera quality, audio quality. You let them yap and they show their bank account and the process that they went through. That's the ideal scenario. That's what converts the most. Cool. That's that so far. Point number 3. Sales process built for effective conversions. For high profit agencies that have great cash flow, a heavy focus on marketing is vital. You want to maximize the marketing because marketing is systems and automation. It's consistent, it's predictable, and it is leveraged as well. What that means is that with sales processes and sales calls, you usually have humans there. You either close yourself, you have a closer, something like that. The problem is humans are inconsistent. They're not predictable. Humans can fall off on some days. Okay, and it's very normal that that happens. You can't really go around that. But marketing is systems, marketing is automation, marketing is software, meaning it's actually consistent, predictable, and reliable. And that's what we want. So if you want to maximize your sales, you just need to ask yourself, what would I have to do to make people buy my product with the click of a button on a website? You do all of that plus the sales call. And that's how you maximize conversions. Okay? And for sales calls themselves, for the effectiveness of them, I personally leverage the closer framework. I'm not quite sure if all of you are familiar with it, but we'll run through that because that's the best one that I've personally found for it so far. There are a million different sales frameworks out there. Few ones are actually good, so you want to pick one and stick with it. Sales isn't complicated if you do it every single day. There's 2 parts of the sales process, as you know, setting and closing. And for the setting part, the thing I usually recommend is the perfect cold video pitch, okay? I've spoken about this with a lot of you before, and this is by far the best way to get high tier clients. I'm not talking like 2K, I'm talking 10K, 20K a month plus. This is a video pitch. You can do this in Loom, you can do this with your phone, you can do this with anything, doesn't really matter. But you want to have a video, and then ideally you want to have a visual that you can show to these people as well. Okay? The first part to it is the agreement. In the agreement, you want to show that you've actually done your research, meaning you do your research on them 5, 10, 20 minutes. Okay? You actually understand their business and you pick out things that you can mention at the start of the video that make them understand this guy actually cares about me and actually investigated my situation. Okay? And by the way, for all of you right now, very important to understand, this is by far the best method I have found to reach these people because I've done everything. I've done cold calls, I've done DMs, I've done emails. This is the one that worked the best, at least in reaching good people. Because cold calls, they don't necessarily bring you the best of the best. Yes, Leo.
I can confirm.
You can confirm. I appreciate it.
Guy on like 250,000 cold calls, DMs, whatever. Do it that way.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. This is by far the most powerful one. And you know, there's also a very good example of this. Tim and Andre couldn't be with us today, unfortunately. But with them, for example, they are currently in a situation where they are doing 10, 15, 20K a month. But the problem is that they can't seem to break past that number because they're stuck in the cycle of cold calling every single day, all day, trying to get clients, but the clients they do sign are like mid-level clients, meaning they don't get big upsells, they don't get great case studies, and they don't get the best of the best referrals. And so to break out of this wheel, now they have to dive into huge pain. And what is that pain? Artificially decrease the revenue so they have work or time that they can put into something like this and getting the right clients, which is very painful. Because if you're making money and then you have to artificially make less, it's very painful, okay? So perfect cold video pitch works very well. Agreement, show you've done your research. Super important. This is already like, I cannot even describe to you how powerful this first step already is because 99.999% of agencies out there don't do this. They text people, I like the colors in your logo. Your website looks great. The IG profile, I really liked it. I just was on Instagram and I came across your profile, bro. Like, bro, do you genuinely believe that they believe you on that? Okay? So agreement. Second one, qualifying agreement. Now you want to introduce the problem in a logical way. So you bring it up, but you don't make it sound negative. Meaning, you want to, for example, say, so I went through this and I saw this and that. You do the agreement and then you do the qualifying agreement. But you tell them, but it did look like X or Y. Very logical, non-emotional, very rational. You just saw it, okay? And then you want to transition into the crisis state. Here, you now go emotional. The reason as to why you first go qualifying agreement and then crisis state is because in the qualifying agreement, if you immediately go into the crisis emotional state, you might bring up their ego, which is not good. You can never argue with an ego and you will lose the sale. And so logic first, emotion second. Transition into the crisis state, make it emotional. So what I like to do personally here is I like to talk in consequences. I like to tell people, hey, I've seen this, but it did look like X. And then I get into the emotions and I tell them, look, the problem with that is that this and that consequence comes out of it. You want to go emotional here, also in your tonality, that's super important. Talk in consequences, that's the best part of this one. Ask the why, the how, or the who. You want to let them subtly know that somebody else should be responsible for it. This is an assumptive statement. The reason as to why you want to ask this is because you want to essentially manipulate them slightly to understand that it's nothing they should do. And the way you do that is you just ask them who in your team is responsible for this and how do they plan on handling it. And if you ask them that, they will assume someone else is responsible. Who are they going to come to if you're the one that solved their problem and made them aware in the first place? Now, you ask that and then you go into the what, meaning you are diving into the solution. What are you going to do to actually solve this crisis? So here, ideally, this is how I like to do it, have maybe a whiteboard in person, have a Miro board that you can run through, show them the actual solution, A to Z, because most of you are selling a done-for-you service either way. And if you don't, tell them what they need to know, because it inevitably creates the next problem. So it's all good. Tell them everything, okay? And then give the call to action. Don't say, let's jump on a call. Don't say, I don't know, do you want to talk about it? Ask them, are you free tomorrow? Are you free today? Or ask them, and this is the best one in my opinion, should I talk to your team or to you about this? This is not a yes or no question. And that's also what I do in my closing calls. I don't ask people, do you want to do it? I don't tell them, this is the price, let's go. I just ask them, do you want to do the onboarding today or tomorrow? And a couple of you can confirm this. Okay? that's that. Now, a couple of very, very important things to understand here. First of all, authority subtle pitch. You, in the phase number 5, where you go over the solution, want to give yourself authority. And you can give yourself authority in a bunch of different ways. Talk about relevant people that the person might know, talk about your results, refer to client case studies, anything that gives you proof that what you're saying is not bullshit, you put it into point number 5 whilst you're talking. And subtle pitch. During point number 5, during going over the solution, what I personally usually like to do is I personally like to tell people, look, if you do want to have a chat about us potentially coming in and working with you on this, our price right now is $7,500 a month. If you want to have a chat, perfect. If not, that's perfectly fine as well. You don't have to mention your price, but you should pitch them subtly in point number 5, okay? How you say things is a lot more important than what you say. Fundamental rule in sales applies here as well. And this is super important, the pain point is the most important part of all of this. The reason for that is that if you have a huge problem in your business that's holding back the growth and it's making your margins shrink and it's losing you money in real time, and someone texts you saying, hey, I see you have this one problem, here's how you can solve it, they reply, it doesn't matter how big their audience is, it doesn't matter how big their team is. If you can actually talk about the right problem, they reply, and that's usually why they do. So the pain point is the most relevant. For you to be able to understand what the pain point is, you have to investigate their situation, their business. Now you have to become good at being efficient with this process. You want to send ideally minimum 10 a day of these pitches and never stop the follow-up. With never stop the follow-up, I'm actually talking about like do 80, 90 follow-ups, it doesn't matter. Until they either block you or they text back, okay? Don't spam them though. You can do this, every couple of days, maybe later on, every 4 or 5 days. Really depends, but don't stop following up. And by the way, for a lot of you, don't follow up saying, have you seen my message? Name question mark, or just a question mark, or all of this bullshit stuff. Like, you either follow up with value to their situation or third-party proof. And that's the only thing you do. Like, you do nothing else. Maybe gifts, maybe. Everything else is bullshit. Value, third-party proof, maybe something funny. That's it. Okay? Now, the one sales process that's worked best for me personally is called the closer framework. And the closer framework, its effectiveness is caused by the looseness of it. And this is why I like it so much. Yes, shoot for it.
Can I ask a question about the video?
Shoot for it.
How long should the video be, roughly? Is it like a 30-second video, a 10-minute video?
Very good question. I would usually say if you keep it in between 3 to 4 minutes, you'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah. That's usually what I do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to 10 minutes, but it's usually, you're going to be talking about a lot of irrelevant stuff if you go that far.
Okay.
Yeah. Easy. Cool. So effectiveness is caused by the looseness of the framework. As I said as well, by the way, after the presentation, I want to dive into a couple of your guys' current situation. So if you have any questions as well, we can also dive into that afterwards as well. So closer stands for, first one, clarify. Means you clarify why they are on the call in the first place. And they're not on the call because you texted them, you cold called them, they've seen an ad, or their wife told them to get on. That's not why they are there. They are there because they have a problem, they have a pain. No one, you need to drill this into your mind because this is something that I personally struggled with a lot before. No one jumps on a 45-minute Zoom meeting with a stranger they've never met to talk about business if they don't have a problem they want to solve. Why the fuck would they do that? It's a huge waste of time. No one does that. No one. And so when they jump on the call, you need to clarify why they are there. How do you clarify? You clarify it by asking them, what made you jump on the call today? First question you ask, okay? Now, some people, as I said, might tell you the problem immediately. Some people might say, oh, because you texted me. Oh, because you said you have this and that. All of these bullshit excuses. What I usually like to say is, I usually like to joke around. I usually tell them, look, do you do this more often? Do you get on calls 3 times every day with random strangers you don't really know and just talk about business and then you, fuck off again? Do you do that every day? Haha. And then they usually say no. And then I usually tell them, okay, well, in that case, the reason why you're here, I assume, probably is because you have some type of problem, right? Right. Okay, what problem do you have? What's the pain? And then they tell me. So clarify. If the first question doesn't clarify it right away, ask a second one. Get that problem. This is fundamental for the rest of the call because a lot of you guys jump on calls talking about the type of content you're going to do in video editing or the type of ads you're going to run or whatever the fuck you're going to do. It doesn't matter. No one cares. The only thing they care about is knowing that you can solve their pain. But for you to be able to show them that you can solve it, you have to know what the pain is. Okay? Clarify the pain. First part. Second part to it is you now label. So you come in and they tell you, okay, my problem right now is that my ads aren't profitable. You then come in and you tell them, okay, John, so if I understand correctly, you flex that you actually listened, okay, very important. If I understand correctly, John, you're currently in a situation where your ads aren't really profitable, and is that slowing down the business? Okay, so John, if I get that right, you're right now in a situation where you want to get this ads problem resolved, because if you don't, then the business is going to slowly decline. So you're on the call today because you want to solve this problem. Right, okay, I now gave him that label. I attributed the label of you suck at ads, and if you don't solve it, you're gonna be fucked. And he doesn't lose this label throughout the entire call anymore. Clarify their pain, label them with that pain. And by the way, there's a big difference between labeling people and restating. Restating, as all of you know, is super important in the sales process, and you have to do it. And usually when you restate, again, flex that you actually listened. Don't tell them, okay, so blah, 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 restating what they said. Just tell them, if I understood correctly, if I heard that right, usually makes it a bit more intense for them again, and they like you even more. Labeling means you actually attribute that label to them and you tell them, you, John, are right now in a situation where X applies. That's you right now, correct? When you gave them that label, they don't lose it anymore, and you can leverage it to close them later on. O stands for overview. So we clarified their pain, we labeled them with that pain, and now we want to overview that pain. Meaning for 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 minutes, you let them talk about that pain. You don't talk about ads, you don't talk about anything, you just let them talk about that pain. How long have you had that pain for? Like, how long has it existed? 2 years. Okay, so your ads weren't profitable for 2 years. Did I understand that correct? Okay. Well, John, over those 2 years, what realistically speaking have you tried to actually, get rid of that problem and make the ads profitable again? Oh, well, I've worked with this one agency and I've done this and I've done that. And now you go into a pain cycle. Meaning, if they tell you, okay, I've worked with this agency to solve the problem, then you can ask them, okay, why didn't that work out? Oh, because of this and that. What else have you tried? I don't know, I ran it by myself. Why didn't that work out? What you're doing is you have to see the sales process as a linear line. And here, they're at the start of the call, here they close. You essentially go through the sales process, and before you even let them get close to pitching, you take them back. More pain, more pain, more pain. This is the sales cycle. So you ask them, what have you tried to solve that so far? Why didn't that work out? What else have you tried? Why didn't that work out? What else have you tried? Why didn't that work out? Obviously, vary what you're saying a bit, but you stay in this pain cycle for 20 minutes. I've had people cry after 20 minutes on this. And this is not, like the thing is, it was usually women, no offense. But the thing with this is that people don't buy when the pain isn't big enough. The pain of growing has to be lower than the pain of staying the same. And you can only achieve that if you let them talk about it. You're not creating pain. You're not creating artificial pain. You're making them aware of the pain they feel. Because humans are very good at hiding their own pain from them. All of us have something in our lives that we want to fix that we're not happy with, but we kind of put it into the back of our mind because we don't like thinking about it. Now, when you talk to someone and he makes you talk about it for 20 minutes, guess what? You're going to be very problem aware, and you're going to be in a situation where you want the solution to it. Okay? Very, very important. The pain of them sending you $20,000 on the spot has to be lower than the pain of staying the same. They have to be in a lot of pain. Okay? Easy. Cool. S stands for sell. Here you sell, super simple. You tell them 2 to 3 stories about what your product is going to do for them. Because you obviously need to tell them what it's about, what they're actually going to get from it. I like to tell 2 to 3 stories because, again, they don't give a shit about how good you are. They don't give a shit about, the type of ads you're running. They don't care. They don't care. Get that into your mind. They don't care. What they do care about is understanding whether you can help them or not. And I like portraying that to people by telling them about a client that was in a similar situation, that went to a similar outcome, and talking about that. So if I have someone that lacks clarity, I usually like to tell them the story of Alex, for example. I tell them, well, look, The first part to this, and the most valuable part to you especially, John, is essentially what I like to call guidance or clarity. I had this one particular client, Alex. He joined about 1.5 years ago. And when Alex came to me, he was in similar position as you're in right now. Because Alex, at that point in time, had a lot of drive to make it work. He had that fire inside of him to actually build a thriving and scaling and profitable company. The problem wasn't his drive. The problem was that he didn't have the inputs, the information, the quality information that he needed to get access to be able to actually get clients. He had an acquisition problem. He didn't know how to do it. And so within the first 4 weeks, John, I worked together very intensively with Alex. We went on one-on-one call a week. I put him into group sessions with other people where we dove into detail on this topic, this topic, this topic. Then we had daily communication in chat. We were calling, we were doing this, that. I gave him resources, I gave him video material. I did all of that. And then after that month, we still worked together for a couple other months after that. But within the first 3 months, John, Alex went from 0 to 50K a month profit. If we could do something, John, that's even remotely close to what I did with Alex, what would you say to that? Do you see how much more powerful this is compared to, I'm going to jump on a call a week with you? Do you actually think that why are you 20K? Because you say, I'm going to jump on a call with you and I'm going to do your ads. Again, they don't care. They only care about getting their pain solved. And the best way to show them you can do that is by relating it to stories of clients that you've helped with before. And by the way, if you don't have any client stories to reference to, take other stories. Take stories about life, take stories about business, take something that makes them understand the value of that certain part of the product. E for educate, some services still need education. Some services still require you to actually tell the client, look, this is what we're going to do step by step. This is what we're going to implement. Some require that. Most of you guys don't have to do that, by the way. But some, if it's a very technical service and they actually have to understand some detail to it before signing, then sure, go over it. Educate after telling stories. And R stands for reinforce. A lot of people get buyer's remorse after buying the first time. And any of you that are working with me right now, I know for sure that after sending the money, you probably felt like, oh, was this the right choice? Not because I'm not fucking good at what I do, which I think I can clearly show, but because, when you spend a lot of money at once, doesn't feel good. Because what you take away is security. What you take away is comfort. And most people don't like being in discomfort. I had a lady recently that got on board and she didn't want to step into that discomfort. She easily had the money, but she didn't want to do it. She wasn't able to put the sacrifice to what she wants in place. And so you have to sacrifice comfort. Most people aren't willing to do it, but you don't target those people either way. Reinforce. Easy. What I personally put my focus on. I personally put my focus on branding, curating the perception, controlling opinions, staying relevant, attracting an audience of high-quality business owners, and client delivery and retention. Client happiness, case studies, referrals, word of mouth. This is what I focus on. I don't focus on sending outreach messages. I don't, because it doesn't create the leverage that I want in my company. Putting your focus on those two will give you the most leverage long term. Great example. What we're doing right now, this keynote. This keynote obviously will be on video as well. Can you imagine the amount of authority someone sees in me when they see me holding a keynote about this much value in a room like this with you guys? I'm going to have a lot easier time closing anyone, even outside of that industry, because the perceived authority is so high. So this is what I personally like to focus on. Putting a focus on those two will give you the most leverage long term. Never strive for someone else's goal. This is something that I wanted to put into this presentation as well, because I personally struggled with this a lot. You shouldn't try to get to 100K a month because someone on the internet told you that that's the new norm, and if you don't make that, you're a dumbass. Fucking stupid. Actually take some time to yourself and understand what you truly want to do and make out of your life. Because if you strive for someone else's goal, it's a short-term game, and you will fall down quickly after. So understand exactly what do I want my life to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line. Understand that and then take action towards it and let no one talk you out of it. Don't look left and right because it doesn't matter. I don't give a shit what anyone in my market is doing. I look at it for reference because, I have to be educated on my competition, but I don't care what they do. Bro, if they make 10 million a month, good for them. If they make $1, I don't care. Whatever. I do my thing, okay? Do you want to work all day, every day? Do you want to run a lifestyle business? Do you want to exit? These are super important questions that you have to ask yourself because, again, some of the companies you guys are building are not exitable. If an exit is your goal, do you want to build that company, make cash, and then build something that you can exit on a 5, 6, 7x multiple? Or do you not want to do that? Do you want to have a lifestyle business, reinvest a lot of the money into stocks, crypto, real estate, and just chill? Because either option is fine. Just understand what you want and then do everything in accordance to that. I don't want to work all day, every day, the entire year. I have seasons where I do it. I have seasons where I don't. Right now, more or less. Understand what you want first and let no one influence that decision and stick with it for long enough. 99% of what you're striving for can be achieved with 4 hours of deep work per day. Now, super important. If you want to build a huge company and make it go big, like if you're looking at the biggest companies, you cannot do this with 4 work hours. Trust me. But you can do like 50, 100K a month with that, with a lifestyle business. That is very possible. Even like 200, 300K. Because at the end of the day, most people are super unproductive with the time that they do work. And this is what I focus on most every single day. I try to have 4 hours of deep work in the mornings, strictly. And I get done with the most relevant to-dos that give me the most leverage in the company, that I noted down the night prior. And I do that every day, 7 days a week. And this gives me a shit ton of productivity. And after those 4 hours, I can work, I don't have to. For clarity, meetings to me aren't work. Talking to my team isn't work. Texting back isn't work. Work is actual focused deep work, getting things done. That's work, okay? And you only need 4 hours of that per day. For that, you want to understand your archetype. There are 4 different sleep archetypes that people have. And depending on your archetype, you want to have a different schedule. For me personally, I have the most focus, the most clarity, the most energy in the mornings, meaning I do my 4 hours of deep work per day in the morning. Now, you might be a different archetype. You have bears, lions, wolves, and dolphins. You can read through this if you want to, but you want to understand what type of sleep archetype you have, and then you want to have your deep work block whenever you have the most energy. Simple as that, right? Bear, for example, gets up and goes to bed when the sun rises and sets, right? Lion loves an early start and an early night. Mornings are your jam. Wolf, trouble waking up in the morning, only gets going at night. I have friends that are wolves that... that sounds so cringe. Where they are very productive after like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and then they lock in for 4 hours. I can't do that. At 7 p.m., I want to do nothing. I want to go out for food and eat. Understand your archetype. Cool. The biggest hack that I personally found for extreme productivity and having the right mindset is my environment. For example, office spaces, events, etc. I personally struggled a lot to be productive and locked in and actually focused on my goals when I was back in the town that I grew up in, because everybody around me was super lazy, drinking beer every day, and like that was not my type of vibe, but the energy obviously was surrounding me everywhere I went, and so I didn't necessarily find it easy to be productive. But if I am in office spaces where there's a lot of people only working and I can literally lock myself in a box where I can do nothing but work for hours on end, then I'm pretty fucking productive. So just change your environment. If you're not productive, go somewhere else, do something else, meet other people. That's what I've personally found to help me the most. Okay. By the way, the reason why we're talking about these things is because these are catalysts. Okay. So we're talking about sales, we're talking about appointment setting, we're talking about acquisition in general, we're talking about focus, we're talking about all of these things. But the reason as to why I'm going over this right now is because that's the catalyst. Because the foundation is being able to be fucking productive. Then offer, branding, delivery. Then the tactics. But most of you, like if you make less than $1 million a year, the foundation isn't set right. That's just what it is, okay? Also, stay on course. Beginners tend to think that successful entrepreneurs have an easier life. In reality, they have completely different challenges that they have to face. There are shiny objects everywhere. When you find diamonds, keep mining. I have many shiny objects every single day because when you have more friends that make more money as well and you get introduced to other circles and you are in different places than you were in before, you tend to have a lot more opportunities than before, which is very, logical. But the problem with it is that if you see someone that's doing well in a certain vertical and you decide to go into that vertical, it's like literally you're digging a hole in the ground with your business and you found oil and then you said, oh, Ilya found oil as well. Let me go to his place and start digging there from scratch. Like, how stupid is that? Doesn't make any sense. And also it doesn't make any sense because the types of businesses that make you successful, or the ones that you make successful, usually are correlated to your type of personality as well. I might crush it in e-com, or I might be completely terrible at it. I don't know, I've never tried it. So if you found success somewhere, it's usually because well, you've been doing it for long enough, you have the right information and a bunch of different factors, but also you're the type of person that can make that business successful. Because there are people that would fucking hate standing in front of you guys right now doing a keynote. I don't mind that much. So maybe my personality is better for running a business like this than something else. You have to keep that into account. So if you found success, if you found diamonds, keep mining while you're mining, and that's how you achieve leverage. Cash is still king. None of you listening will be able to sell their company for a high multiple. It's very unlikely. Because of that, you have to prioritize profit now. The perfect offer is having maximum 20% marketing costs, maximum 20% delivery costs, 60% margin. That's on a high run rate, okay? If you have a top delivery for the top 1% of the industry, you want to do it again and again and again and again, verify that you're doing it to the marketplace and raise prices. Example of my company, in 2022, I charged $600, sometimes even $300 for unlimited time frames, by the way. I told them, you're going to pay me $600 now, afterwards it's pay per appointment forever. $300, $600 for an unlimited time frame. In 2025, 10K plus a month for high quality deals. I don't want to make less than that because at the end of the day, there's opportunity cost in everything. If I take on a deal that makes me $2,000 a month, I might lose a 10K a month deal. That's just what it is, okay? Top-notch delivery for the top 1% of your market allows you to raise prices. If you experience friction after raising price, do not lower prices. It's not a sign for you to be able to lower your prices. It's a sign for you to build better processes in marketing. Okay, so usually when I get a little friction in my sales process, it's not a thing that my price is too high. It's usually a thing that my marketing isn't good enough. That's it. I raised my prices, for example, recently, and I have had a lot more friction in the sales process. Obviously, I fucking tripled my price, okay? It was a good decision still. I'm still at a good run rate, but if I just improve my processes and my marketing, I'm gonna make a shitload more money, okay? And with that, it's already the end of the presentation. So I would say we dive into a couple of questions.